You know, you very rarely will hear Labour ever talk about socialism or the class war. I was put down one time, many years ago, at the beginning of the Scottish Parliament, when I was making a speech in Parliament about the class war, and there was a few sniggers and guffaws. By the way, it wasn't even for the Tory benches, this was for the Labour benches. And one of them made an intervention to the effect, doesn't Mr Sheridan know that we're approaching the 21st century? The class war is over. And of course, my reply to that was, if the class war is over, who won it? Because at the end of the day, I think every single situation, every single issue that arises here in Scotland, across the UK, even on an international basis, is part and parcel of what we would call the class war. I was looking at a report in preparation for tonight's meeting, a report that was done by a professor of accountancy, a guy called Prem Sikka from the University of Essex. This guy was carrying out a major report into the rich and the multinational companies in the UK, and he was trying to establish exactly what rate of taxation these people were paying. What is it the multi-billionaires actually pay in tax? And his report revealed that in 2006, the 54 billionaires, we're not talking millionaires any longer, we're talking billionaires, 54 billionaires who are based in the UK had a combined fortune of £126,000 million. It's a bit difficult when you use figures like that, isn't it? What does it mean? 126 billion quid between 54 people. It is unbelievable sums of wealth. Absolutely obscene. And of those 54 billionaires, where 126 billion pounds between the 54 of them, they paid in total an income tax bill of £14.6 million, or a tax rate of 0.01%. 0.01%. Class war. There's your class war. 0.01% in tax for the multi-rich and billionaires, 30% tax rate for ordinary workers. We had the scandal at Goldman Sachs that was revealed only last year. Goldman Sachs is the biggest financial services company in the world, where it was revealed because of this non-payment of taxation via loopholes, via offshore accounts, via a system called the non-DOMS. This is the non-domicile tax evasion. This is where people come to this country. You know, you hear a lot of talk about asylum seekers. You very rarely hear enough talk about the real asylum seekers, the ones we should be homing in on. Instead of attacking ordinary working class people, many of whom are fleeing from violence, are fleeing from discrimination, are fleeing from poverty. Let's stop attacking those asylum seekers and turn their fire at the real asylum seekers that deserve to be paid attention to, those that are seeking asylum from fair taxes in their own country. They come here and live in the UK to avoid getting taxed in their own countries. And what that report revealed only last year was that the managing directors at Goldman Sachs were paying less in tax than the cleaners in the building, who were getting paid £5.90 an hour to clean the building. They were paying more in tax than the directors whose salaries were in excess of £5 million a year. Class war! Class war is cleaners paying more than managing directors. That's class war. And as far as we in Solidarity are concerned, we are a socialist party, and we are in no way, shape or form willing to cover or bend the knee to those in power who tell us that socialism is irrelevant, socialism doesn't work, socialism isn't for the 21st century. Do you know what's half funny? When you listen to the so-called captains of industry, the big bankers, you need to be careful, you know, at the time when you call them the big bankers in case you get it right. The big bankers who will tell you that socialism, public ownership, the state intervention, it's finished, it's a bygone era. It's the 21st, don't you know? Free market, let capitalism run society. And they go on and on about that, particularly when the times are good and they're pocketing the profit. But what happens when there's a problem? What happens when you get banks irresponsibly lending all over the world, lending beyond their assets, lending to a situation where they are about to go bankrupt as Northern Rock was about to go a couple of months ago? What happens? All of a sudden these captains of industry, these soothsayers of the free market, what do they call for? Oh, we need the state to get involved. Let's nationalise the bank. Well, do you know the only difference between solidarity and these truth-sayers of capitalism, these purveyors of the free market? I'll tell you what the difference is. They believe in nationalisation to bail the banks' books. We believe in nationalisation in order to improve the living standards of the working class people. Why should the banks be in private ownership? Why should gas and electricity be in private ownership? Why should we have a means of transport in private ownership? Why don't we own and control those resources as part and parcel of the national assets for every man, woman and child? That's what nationalisation is. They've found 29 billion quid, 29 billion to bail out Northern Rock. That's how much of your money, our money, has been paid to stop that bank going under. And yet, when it comes to arguments about pensions, when it comes to arguments about public sector pay, when it comes to arguments about housing provision, what do we get told all the time? There's no money. We can't afford a decent pension. The lowest pension in the whole of Europe. That's what we've got in this country. You argue for a decent living pension. Sorry, we can't. Everybody's got to tighten their belt. When it comes to public sector pay for nurses, for council workers, for people who are putting in a shift, what do they tell them? Sorry, 2%. Inflation's running at 4.3%, doesn't matter. You're only getting 2%, you're getting a wage cut. Why? We need money. When it comes to the idea that there should be more good quality, proper council houses built by councils in order to provide for those youngsters, young people trying to get a start, trying to get their own house, there's none available. What do they tell them? I'm sorry, there's no money. But when Northern Rock goes with a begging bowl, oh, you need to help, it's not you feel, oh yeah, 29.